Okay, so this is the inaugural video of uh, and by which I mean the My Zen Brain Patreon page. I will be using this particular avenue to showcase the ongoing effort that I engaged in about 3 years ago. I started about 3 years ago, and it was, or initially, and it still is, my mammoth gaping rabbit hole of learning as much as I can about the human brain and the human mind. So I decided that I would put book reports and I would tell the the loyal Patreon patrons about uh, the books that I've read and the TED Talks that I've read and the articles that I've read and just my experiences in general with getting my mind and my brain in top peak performing order. And uh, I'll be the first to admit that I wasn't coming from a place of I wasn't coming from a real good place to begin with. Um, I was very overweight going into my recovery. I'm still overweight, but I feel better about it now than I used to. So there's that. Um, but I have also been reading books about everything pertaining to the brain, the exercises effect on the brain, meditation's effect on the brain, and again, TED Talk. There'll be TED Talks and links to articles, um, all of which are in my mind beneficial ways and things to read and things to watch and otherwise uh, better myself and the ways that have worked for me so far in this journey of recovery that is almost 9 years old. So, anyway, that is what this is going to be for. And so, the first installment of the My Zen Brain Patreon behind the paywall endeavor. I keep saying that endeavor. I gotta find a better word. Anyway, I reviewed the book The Zen of Recovery by Mel Ash, and let's see here. Uh, So, in this first video, I want to talk about the book that really made the program of AA click with me and made me a believer in the transformative power of the program of AA, um, written by Mel Ash. Mel Ash is a recovering addict and alcoholic and victim of domestic violence. And he is also a certified Dharma teacher in the Kwan School of Zen, a school of Korean Zen founded by Master Song San. I don't know how to pronounce these Asian names, so Master Seung space capital Sahn. Ash lists the people in his book who have inspired his thinking over the years, and on that list he includes Alan Watts, Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, Ram Dass, Henry David Thoreau, and he says in the book, quote, he trusts that he has not interpreted their messages incorrectly or frivolously, and I very much hope that I give homage to Mr. Ash in the same way. In this book, so the quote, I just, shorthanded some of the quotations of Mr. Ash in this book, The Zen of Recovery. Quote, if this book can instead cause you to itch and show that you can scratch by yourself, it will have succeeded in making you your own teacher, unquote, which is essentially at the core of the Buddhist teachings, the concept that you are your own salvation, and you can achieve that salvation right now in this moment if you are simply awake to your own consciousness all by yourself, which speaks to the reason that this book has meant so much to me and why it made the program of alcoholics click for me was the concept of a higher power. And many people call that their higher power God. They refer to God as the Christian God, although that is not exclusively the case. There are other people, AAers in the program, who believe in many different types of gods. One gentleman I've encountered believes, as he says it, is in a angry and vengeful God. I don't believe that the Judeo-Christian God, I don't believe in the Judeo-Christian God, and therefore the place of a higher power in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, to me, is I refer to my higher power as now, meaning this present moment, which is essentially what Zen is about. Mr. Ash goes on, I quote, "Don't try to know so much." He's speaking about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. You'll get there. You're already there. And unquote. And I think here Ash is talking to what I personally think of as AA overachievers. The people that give out their phone numbers and accumulate sponsees like baseball cards and quote the big book chapter and verse. Don't get me wrong. Those people, I'm not poo-pooing those people who are active in the program, and as they say, as we see in the program, they're working a good program. I often think of myself, maybe I could stand to be more active in my program, but that's not what this is about. What Ash is referring to here is you don't need to try to be a better AAer the same way that you don't need to try to be a better Buddhist or a better practicer of meditation. It doesn't work like that. And those two words, I'm quoting the book here. Those two words, not God, wrap up the spiritual requirements of recovery and Zen practice, unquote. He goes on to list some of the fundamental points about Buddhism, that the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism is that all existence is suffering. 2, that suffering is created by desire. 3, that this desire can be destroyed. And 4, it can be destroyed by following the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path is the Buddha's prescription for living a skillful life, as he would say it. And it comes with right understanding, right purpose, right speech, right conduct, right vocation, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditation. Mr. Ash provides a brief history of Zen and its cultural influences to folks like Kerouac and Gary Snyder, the poet Walt Whitman, again, Buddhist scholars like Alan Watts and D.T. Suzuki. He catalogs how Buddhism started in India and its migration north to China and then over to Korea and Japan, where many Americans first encountered Buddhism and subsequently brought it over to start the first inklings of Buddhism taking root in the United States. I quote, "In a very real way, we take our disease as our higher power, and rather than trying to control or deny it, we accept it as part of ourselves." That speaks volumes for the AA, or especially if Buddhism piques their interest, because it is acknowledging that we have our addiction to alcohol, and rather than try to outrun it, which is what I tried to do, or control it or deny it, as many people have tried to do, you just accept it as part of yourself. My single favorite passage in this book, the one that stopped me cold in my tracks, is Mr. Ash, when he's describing a famous Zen cartoon in which two monks are meditating side by side, and the older monk says to the younger monk, who has sort of an expectant look on his face, quote, "Nothing happens next. This is it." As Mr. Ash points out in his book, this really is it. Nothing more, nothing less. Welcome to your life. It is as exactly as it seems. And with this sentiment, I think he's trying to strip away all the underpinnings of what American culture convinces us that we are, whether we're a father or we're an employee, or we're a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a lover or a friend, or any of these things. He strips it down and he says, what you are is what is here. What you are is what you are right now. And that's going to change. It's different than it was a minute ago, and it's different than what it's going to be a minute from now. To me, it's the simplest, most fundamental truth of being an alcoholic or an addict. Our minds, created by our bodies and our brains and our moods and our histories and so on, really are exactly as they seem. The world is exactly what is right now, which is good, because right now is all you or I or the world will ever have. Ash goes on, quote, "We know, however, through our experiences of both our diseases and human nature, that our small mind will not be content with just is. It invents all sorts of stories to divert our attention from the real work. Zen and recovery insist that the real work is right at hand, and the answers to our deepest questions are right on the end of our nose." He goes on to state, you can't be knocked down if you've never built yourself up. And by that, he means, I think, at least in my experience, that a lot of people that get into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, they define themselves about what they are. So if they have a lot of sponsees, or they go to all the AA functions and events, and that's all fine and good, but it's not who you are. It's something you do. And trying to identify yourself by, oh, well, I did that thing, so therefore I am the guy that goes to the AA event. It's a delusion. I mean, that you just go to the AA event. You are not the guy that goes to the AA event, the same way you're not the guy who does anything, cuts people off or turns left on a red light, anything. He says, quote, "You must believe in your true self 100%. especially when the world is telling you otherwise, trying to knock you back down the long stairway of recovery. And I emphasize this again. This is my last quote. Don't take shit off anyone else if you believe in yourself and your direction 100%. No one has to live your life and die your lonely death. No one has the right to judge you, and take your personal inventory if your personal evolution is well motivated and clear. Everyone works his or her program in his or her own way, and everybody practices Zen or any spiritual path according to his own needs and vision, unquote. And so when I remember I was at a meeting and in my share, I said something about how I think I might have found the missing spiritual component of my recovery, and it was Buddhism. And after the meeting, a friend gave me a copy of the Zen of Recovery by Mr. Malash, and I read it, and it was just it was a revelation. It was I had finally found. It's weird to say this, but almost permission to believe something that was not what the Judeo-Christian AAers had been saying is the way to go. So I don't know. I mean, the most fundamental truth about the program of AA, in my opinion, is you take what you want and you leave the rest. And I took Buddhism and I left the Judeo-Christian God behind. I just, I think as Bill Burr says in one of his stand-ups, I just let go of it like I was curling. Just released it, and it was very peaceful, and I just didn't look back. So anyway, I recommend this book very highly. It's a great book, and it's let's see. Here it is, The Zen of Recovery by Mel Ash. And it's my copy is all, you can't see it, but it's dog-eared and highlighted, and it's going to be a go-to for me throughout my life in recovery. And so that is my first book review. I encourage anyone who is curious about recovery, or the program of AA, or the program, or the practice of Zen, or meditation in general, to pick up this book. You are going to love it. And so that is my first My Zen Brain Patreon video. I got more. I got more to come. I've got several years of doing this grunt work, and I don't know. I'm hoping that I will be putting something out into the world that hasn't been there before. With I don't know. Maybe it's like I don't know. I guess My Zen Brain is going to be a clearinghouse of the ways in which that I have found for myself to trudge the road to happy destiny every day. Thanks. Oh, keep your head about you.